The United States is defending a decision to send controversial cluster bombs to Ukraine as part of a new billion-dollar military package. The lethal weapons have a track record of harming civilians and have been banned by more than 100 countries. But as US correspondent Catherine Firkin reports, it's hoped they may hasten the end of the war, which has now gone for 500 days.
They're called cluster munitions. Terrifying bombs that burst like fireworks, scattering smaller explosives indiscriminately across an area that can stretch the size of several football fields. The controversial weapons have been included in a new US military aid package for Ukraine, despite their track record for causing civilian deaths.
It's a difficult decision. It's a decision we deferred. It's a decision that required a real hard look at the potential harm to civilians.
Not only deadly on impact, the bombs have longer-lasting risks. Often the smaller sub-explosives don't detonate immediately, meaning they can kill long after the war has ended.
Ukraine has provided written assurances that it is going to use these in a very careful way that is aimed at minimizing any risk to civilians.
They're so deadly and so risky that 120 countries have banned the weapons outright. But with Russia using the bombs to devastating effect and Ukraine's counter-offensive having all but stalled, America says its hand was forced.
But the worst thing for civilians in Ukraine is for Russia to win the war. And so it's important that they don't.
In addition to ammunition, the US is also sending armoured vehicles as part of a package worth almost $1.2 billion.
Vladimir Putin has a theory of victory. Okay? His theory of victory is that he will outlast everybody. He'll outlast the Ukrainians, he'll outlast the United States, he'll outlast the Europeans, he'll outlast the international community.
And now, 500 days since the war began, it's another clear sign from the Biden administration that the US will continue to back Ukraine for as long as it takes, and no matter the cost. Catherine Firkin for 10 News First, New York.
A white supremacist has been handed 90 consecutive life sentences for killing 23 people during a shooting rampage at a Texas Walmart back in 2019. 24-year-old Patrick Crucius pleaded guilty to nearly 50 federal hate crimes related to the attack, where he targeted Hispanic shoppers in El Paso.
If you have a broken brain, if your brain is broken and it's not processed and you're not under medication, it's what happened.
I hope and pray that you will die in prison, and also pray that you go through hell in there.
Further punishment almost certainly awaits, with state prosecutors pursuing charges against Crucius, and they're seeking the death penalty. 2 people have been killed and 3 others injured in a shocking tragedy on an Indian highway. Cars travelling along the road in the country's northeast came to a standstill when a landslide struck following heavy rain. Boulders careened down the mountainside, slamming into 3 different vehicles. Dozens of people have been rescued after being stranded in a cable car for 11 hours in Ecuador. Police and firefighters pulled off a daring manoeuvre to retrieve all 27 stuck in the gondola after it suffered mechanical failure. They managed to pull off the entire operation without injuries to either the passengers or emergency responders. A would-be robber had no luck attempting to hold up this nail salon in Atlanta. He entered the store with his hand in a bag, but most of the customers barely flinched, only one woman giving him her phone.
Where's the money? Give me the money. Where's the money? Everybody give me everything. Where's the money?
Well, they didn't want to show him the money. He eventually gave up and walked out and remains on the run. Thousands of adrenaline junkies have braved the streets of Pamplona in Spain for this year's first running of the Bulls. And in good news, no one was gored, but several people did suffer bumps and bruises after tripping over and hitting the deck. Crowds are expected to surpass last year's 1.7 million attendees following the lifting of all COVID restrictions. The running of the Bulls was made famous by author Ernest Hemingway. This year marks a century since his first visit. And there's been a very special and very cute arrival at the San Diego Zoo. It's welcomed a baby red panda for the first time since 2006. Born early last month, the yet-to-be-named cub went on public display for the first time this week, but didn't venture too far from mum.